May 12, 1942. 6:10 a.m. A dusty forward airstrip outside Kunming, China. The air is already thick with heat even this early. You can hear it before you see it, the uneven coughing of an engine that doesn't quite want to live. A Curtiss P-40 Warhawk sits at the far end of the strip. Its olive paint dulled by dust, its shark-mouth nose chipped and faded like a grin that has been laughed at too many times. "Kill that engine, Lieutenant. You're wasting fuel on a crate that won't even climb straight." The voice belongs to Technical Sergeant Harold Briggs, Ground Crew Chief. His sleeves rolled up, hands black with oil. He doesn't even look up from the open cowling of another aircraft as he shouts. Lieutenant Daniel Mercer ignores him for a moment. Inside the cockpit, sweat runs down his back under the leather harness. The Allison 51710 engine in front of him vibrates unevenly, the throttle responding with a delay that every pilot here has learned to hate. The P-40 shudders again. Mercer pulls the throttle back. The engine coughs once more, then settles into a low, irritated rumble. You hear that Briggs calls out now, finally looking over? That's not an airplane. That's a complaint. A few mechanics laugh. Someone mutters, "Flying coffin." Another adds, "Japs won't even bother shooting that thing down. It'll do the job itself." Mercer opens the canopy. The hot air hits him instantly. "Still flies," he says calmly. Briggs snorts. So does a brick if you throw it hard enough. Around them, the rest of the field hums with activity. American volunteer group pilots, mercenaries turned defenders, move between briefing tents and aircraft. Other P-40s line the strip, some in better condition, most not. Oil stains mark the dirt like shadows of failure. The Curtiss P-40 is not loved here. It climbs poorly above 15,000 feet. It turns slower than the Japanese Nakajima Ki-43. Its engine struggles in the thin mountain air. And worst of all, it demands respect it has not yet earned. Captain Robert Hale, squadron leader, steps out of the operations tent, a map rolled under his arm. "Mercer," he calls. Mercer climbs down from the cockpit. "Yes, sir." Hale doesn't waste time. "Recon reports increased Japanese fighter presence northeast, likely Ki-43s, possibly Ki-27s. They're getting bolder," Briggs mutters under his breath. "Of course they are." Hale continues. "We're flying patrol at 700. Standard altitude 12,000 feet. Stay fast, stay together. No heroics." A pause. Hale glances at Mercer's aircraft. "That thing ready," Briggs answers before Mercer can. "It's ready to disappoint, sir." More laughter. Hale doesn't smile. "I didn't ask for a joke, Sergeant." Silence. Briggs wipes his hands on a rag. "Engine's temperamental. Throttle response lag. Cooling's uneven. She'll fly, but I wouldn't trust her in a climb." Hale looks at Mercer again. "You comfortable taking her up?" Mercer doesn't hesitate. "Yes, sir." For a moment, Hale studies him. There is something in Mercer's expression, not arrogance, not defiance, something quieter, something that does not match the tone of the field. "Fine," Hale says. "Just don't get yourself killed proving a point." Mercer nods, but there is no point being proven. Not yet. Around him, assumptions are already solid, already accepted as fact. The P-40 is inferior. The Japanese fighters are more agile. The only way to survive is speed, altitude, and strict discipline. Everyone knows this. Everyone believes this. And that belief shapes everything that follows. 7:02 a.m. The engines roar, now louder, more confident as the aircraft line up. Dust kicks up behind spinning propellers, turning the airstrip into a haze of motion and noise. You can feel the vibration in your chest as Mercer pushes the throttle forward again. The P-40 lurches. For a moment it hesitates, as if reconsidering the decision. Then it surges ahead. The ground blurs beneath him. The tail lifts. The controls feel heavy, reluctant, like the aircraft is resisting the sky itself. "Blue flight, maintain." "Spacing." Hale's voice crackles over the radio. "Keep it tight." Mercer pulls back on the stick. The P-40 climbs, but not eagerly. The nose wavers. The engine strains. The temperature gauge creeps upward. Below, the airstrip shrinks into dust and lines. Above, the sky opens into a pale blue expanse broken only by distant clouds and the jagged outlines of mountains. God, this thing climbs like it's dragging an anchor. Another pilot mutters over the radio. "Shut it," Hale snaps. "Focus on your instruments." Mercer says nothing. His hands rest lightly on the controls, but his eyes are fixed. Not on the horizon, not on the formation, on the aircraft itself, on the way it moves, on the way it hesitates, on the way it fights him. There is a pattern there, not failure, not randomness, something else. 7:31. The formation levels out at 12,000 feet. The air is thinner here, cooler, but the engine's uneven rhythm persists. "Blue flight eyes sharp," Hale says. "They'll be up here somewhere." Silence follows. Then, contact 11 o'clock, high. The voice is sharp, immediate. You look up. Dark shapes against the sun. Fast, agile, descending. KA-43S, someone shouts. The Japanese fighters dive with precision, their lighter frames cutting through the air like knives. "Break." "Break," Hale orders. The formation scatters. Mercer pushes the throttle forward. The engine hesitates, just for a fraction of a second. But in air combat, a fraction is everything. A Ki-43 flashes past his canopy, impossibly tight. In its turn, its pilot already repositioning for another pass. "Damn it, they're all over us. Stay fast." Hale's voice cuts through the chaos. "Don't turn with them." Mercer doesn't turn. He can't. The P-40 won't allow it. Instead, he dives. The nose drops. The engine roars louder now, finding strength in descent. The aircraft accelerates heavier, but faster, more stable. The Ki-43 tries to follow. But something changes. The Japanese fighter pulls tighter, sharper, trying to stay on Mercer's tail. And for a moment, just a moment, Mercer feels it. The difference. The weight. The resistance. The way the P-40 wants to move when pushed in a certain direction. He levels out low fast. The Ki-43 overshoots. Not by much, but enough. Mercer doesn't fire. Not yet. He's not thinking about kills. He's thinking about control. About how this useless aircraft behaves when pushed beyond what everyone expects. Above him, the sky is chaos. Radio chatter, gunfire, engines screaming. Below him, the terrain rushes past in a blur, and in this narrow space between expectation and reality, something begins to form. Not a plan, not yet, just a realization that everything they believe about this aircraft might not be entirely true, and that realization is dangerous, because no one else sees it, not the ground crews, not the other pilots, not even Captain Hale. At this moment, the P-40 is still a joke, still a liability, still something to survive and not something to fight with. But Mercer feels it, in the vibration of the controls, in the way the aircraft responds when forced into the edge of its limits. There is something here. Something no one has named. And in the distance, more Japanese fighters circle back, preparing for another pass. The battle is just beginning, and already the assumptions are starting to crack. The sky over the mountains fractures into fragments of motion and noise. You can hear the gunfire before you see its effect. Short bursts, sharp and metallic, echoing across the thin air, as tracers cut invisible lines between aircraft that never seem to stay still long enough to hit. Blue 2. Break right. Break right. A P-40 flashes across Mercer's view, its tail shuddering as rounds tear through empty space just behind it. The pilot yanks the stick, forcing a turn. The aircraft resists. The nose drags. The wings feel heavy, sluggish. The Ki-43 behind him moves differently. It does not fight its own controls. It flows. The Japanese fighter slices through the turn with ease, closing distance. Can't shake him. The voice cracks over the radio. "Don't turn with them!" Captain Robert Hale shouts again, but the warning comes too late. The Ki-43 fires. A brief flicker of impact along the P-40's wing route. Smoke begins to trail. The aircraft dips unstable. Mercer watches it happen in a fraction of a second, and something locks into place in his mind. Turning is death, but that is not new. They all know that. What is new is the feeling he had moments earlier. That brief instant when the Ki-43 overshot him during his dive. Not luck, not entirely. He pushes the nose down again. The engine responds better now, almost eager in descent. The vibration smooths. The airframe stabilizes. Speed builds. Mercer, where the hell are you going? Hale's voice cuts in. Down, sir, Mercer replies calm. Get back up here. Stay with the formation. Mercer glances upward. The formation no longer exists. The sky is broken into individual fights, each pilot reacting, improvising, surviving. Negative, Sir Mercer says quietly. A pause on the radio. Then, Hale again sharper now. That's an order, Lieutenant. Mercer does not respond. Instead, he levels out just above the ridgelines, the terrain rushing beneath him. Trees blur together. The ground feels close enough to touch. Behind him, another Ki-43 dives. Mercer sees it in the mirror. Closing fast. Let's see if you follow, he mutters. He keeps low, keeps fast. The Japanese pilot commits diving after him confident. The Ki-43 is lighter, more agile. It should have the advantage. But the air changes near the terrain. Turbulence rises from the mountains. Air currents shift unpredictably. Mercer feels it through the controls. The P-40 does not like sudden corrections. But at speed, it holds a line better than it should. The Ki-43 begins to adjust, trying to match the path, too aggressively. Mercer banks not sharply, but with a heavy, deliberate motion. The kind of turn the P-40 can sustain at speed without stalling. The Ki-43 mirrors him, but tighter, too tight. For a brief moment, the Japanese fighter bleeds speed. Just enough. Mercer pulls slightly up, converting speed into altitude, then rolls and drops back down in a shallow arc. The Ki-43 overshoots again. This time, Mercer is ready. His finger tightens on the trigger. 6.50 caliber machine guns erupt the recoil, vibrating through the airframe. The tracers connect. The Ki-43 jerks violently. A wing snaps outward, trailing debris. The aircraft spirals uncontrolled, disappearing into the trees below. Silence. Just for a second. Then the radio explodes again. Did you see that? Who got him? Was that Mercer? Mercer exhales slowly. One down, he says almost to himself. Up above. Hale's voice returns tighter now. All pilots regroup. Regroup at 12,000, but the tone has changed. There is something else there. Not approval. Not yet. Uncertainty. 7:39 a.m. The fight drifts apart as quickly as it began. The Japanese fighters, having made their passes, begin to disengage, climbing back into the sun. Let them go. Hale orders. Don't chase. One by one, the P-40s pull back battered, but intact. Smoke trails mark the sky like scars. Mercer climbs again, slower this time, the engine protesting as altitude increases. When he rejoins the others, the radio is quieter. Then Briggs' voice cuts in from the ground channel patched through from the airstrip. You boys done getting shot at? Or you planning to bring those crates back in pieces? A few pilots chuckle relief, breaking tension. Blue flight returning, Hale replies. We lost one. 2 damaged. A pause. Enemy losses, Briggs asks. Silence. Then one pilot answers uncertain. Maybe 1. Not confirmed. Another voice adds. Thought I saw one go down near the ridge. Hale does not respond immediately. Then finally, we'll review after landing. Mercer says nothing. 7:56 a.m. The P-40 touches down hard wheels, hitting dirt with a jolt that rattles the frame. The engine sputters as he taxis back, heat rising from the cowling. The moment the propeller stops, Briggs is already there. Well, he says, hands on hips, you didn't die. That's a start. Mercer climbs out. She held together, he replies. Briggs raises an eyebrow. That what we're calling success now. Around them, other pilots dismount, voices overlapping, recounting moments of near misses and sudden dives. I swear they turn inside us like we're standing still. You get slow, you're dead. Simple as that. They were faster climbing too. We couldn't get above them. Hale steps in, cutting through the noise. Enough. Debrief in 5. Inside, the operations tent maps are spread out. Positions are marked with grease pencil. Arrows indicate movements that no longer feel accurate. Hoyle stands at the front. Enemy engaged at approximately 07:30. Estimated 6 to 8 Ki-43 fighters. They attempted high side passes, then broke into individual engagements. He points to the map. We lost Lieutenant Evans. Aircraft went down east of the ridge. A brief silence follows. 2 confirmed damaged. 1 possible enemy aircraft destroyed. Mercer speaks then. Not possible, he says, confirmed. The room turns toward him. Halley narrows his eyes. You're certain? Yes, sir. How? Mercer hesitates for just a fraction of a second. Low altitude engagement. Forced overshoot. Gun pass at close range. One of the other pilots frowns. You went low, how low? Below the ridgeline. A murmur spreads. That's suicide. You get caught down there, you're done. Mercer shakes his head. Not if you stay fast. Halley watches him carefully. You disobeyed orders, Hale says. Yes, sir. And you're telling me that's how you got your kill? Yes, sir. Another pilot speaks up. I saw something down there. Thought it was one of ours diving out of control. Hale looks between them. Or maybe you got lucky. Someone mutters. Mercer doesn't react. Haley folds his arms. We don't build tactics on luck, Lieutenant. No, sir, Mercer replies. But maybe we're flying the wrong fight. That lands heavier than expected. A few pilots exchange glances. Hale's expression hardens. Explain. Mercer gestures toward the map. They want us turning up high. That's where they win. But down low at speed, they can't match us the same way. They overshoot. They lose control. Briggs, leaning against the tent entrance, scoffs. Oh, you just got lucky once. Mercer meets his gaze. Maybe. A pause, but it didn't feel like luck. Silence settles over the room. Hale looks down at the map again, then back at Mercer. We stick to doctrine, he says finally. Maintain altitude, maintain formation, no unauthorized maneuvers. Mercer nods. Yes, sir. But the words hang in the air unresolved. Because something has already changed. Not in the orders, not in the official understanding, but in the experience of one pilot who has seen the aircraft behave differently than expected. Outside, mechanics return to their work. Pilots disperse. The rhythm of the airstrip resumes. And yet, beneath the surface, a small fracture has formed. A possibility that the P-40 is not entirely what they believe it to be. But for now, it is dismissed, written off as luck. An anomaly, a story that does not fit the established truth. And in war, anything that does not fit is often ignored, until it cannot be ignored anymore. May the 13th, 1942. 7:04 a.m. Same airstrip, Kunming sector. The engines start earlier today. You can hear them coughing awake in the dim light before sunlight fully burns off the haze. Mechanics move faster, quieter, as if the previous morning has shortened everyone's patience with routine. Mercer sits in the cockpit again, hands resting lightly on the throttle. The same aircraft, the same uneven vibration, the same reputation. Behind him, Sergeant Briggs circles the nose, tightening a panel that never quite fits right. You planning to go sightseeing down in the trees again? Briggs calls up. Mercer does not look down. Planning to come back, Briggs snorts. Try doing that at altitude like the rest of the sane people. No reply. Across the strip, Captain Robert Hale briefs the other pilots in short, clipped sentences. No long explanations. No speculation. Enemy activity increased overnight. Likely another patrol. Same rules as yesterday. Stay together. Maintain altitude. No deviations. A pause. His eyes flick briefly toward Mercer. Especially no deviations. The message lands without being named. 7:09 a.m. The formation lifts into the air once more. The P-40 groans into its climb, heavy and reluctant. The Allison engine struggling as altitude increases. Keep it tight, Hale says over the radio. We don't scatter this time. The pilots respond one by one. Blue 2, copy. Blue 3, copy. Mercer waits a fraction longer. Blue 4, copy. The sky opens again, wide and empty for a moment that feels almost peaceful. The mountains below are dark silhouettes against the rising sun. Thin clouds drift at higher altitude, catching light. At this moment, no one is firing. No one is dying. And for just a brief stretch of time, it feels like control has returned. 7:26 a.m. Contact. 2 o'clock high. The voice is calmer this time. Prepared. You look up again. Dots become shapes. Shapes become aircraft. More than yesterday. Multiple bandits, Hale says. At least 10. The key 43 fighters descend in coordinated lines, their approach cleaner, more deliberate than before. They have learned something from yesterday as well. Hold formation, Hale orders. Wait for my mark. The P-40S tighten. The sky compresses. Now. Break! The formation explodes outward. The first passes come fast. Japanese fighters slash through the American formation, guns flashing. One P-40 jerks violently as rounds strike near the cockpit. Stay fast, Hale repeats. Mercer holds position for a moment longer than the others. Watching, measuring. A Key 43 angles toward him, its nose dipping slightly, pilot committed. Mercer does not turn. Not yet. He pushes the throttle forward. The engine hesitates, then responds. The P-40 accelerates, but not enough to outrun the incoming fighter at this altitude. Blue 4. You've got one on you, a voice warns. I see him, Mercer replies. The Key 43 closes. Mercer counts the distance without speaking. 3 seconds. 2. 1. He drops. Not a gentle descent. A hard, committed dive. The nose falls sharply. The horizon disappears. The ground rushes up in a blur. The engine roars louder, smoother now, finding strength in speed. The Key 43 follows. Of course it does. The Japanese pilot expects the same pattern as before. A diver chase, a chance to close in and fire. But Mercer does not level out where expected. He keeps diving, lower, closer to the terrain than any manual would recommend. Mercer, pull up, Hale shouts over the radio. No response. The ground rises fast. Trees become individual shapes. Shadows stretch across uneven terrain. At the last moment, Mercer pulls back. Not sharply, not violently, just enough. The P-40 responds with weight, with resistance, but also with stability at speed. He banks slightly, forcing a wide arc. The Ki-43 mirrors him, but tighter, always tighter. Too tight. The difference appears again. The Japanese fighter, built for agility, bleeds speed in the turn. Mercer feels it, not sees it. Feels it. He adjusts his throttle just slightly, maintaining speed instead of trading it for altitude. The Key 43 closes, then begins to drift. The line is wrong. The angle is off. Mercer rolls left, then right. Small corrections that keep his speed intact. The Key 43 tries to match. It cannot. For a fraction of a second, the Japanese aircraft slides forward. Overshoot. Again. Mercer is already turning. Not a tight turn. A controlled reposition. The P-40 swings around its heavier frame, carrying momentum through the maneuver. The Ki-43 is exposed. Mercer fires. The guns hammer. Tracers connect along the fuselage. The Ki-43 jerks, smoke pouring from the engine. It tries to climb, but the damage is immediate. The aircraft stalls, drops, and disappears into the valley below. 2. Mercer says, almost surprised at his own voice. Above, the fight continues. But something has changed. Did you see that again? One pilot shouts. He's doing the same thing, going low. Yeah. And they can't stay with him. Hale's voice cuts in sharper now. All pilots maintain altitude. Do not follow him down. But one pilot hesitates, just for a second. Then another voice. I'm trying it. A P-40 breaks downward. Blue 3, get back up here, Hale snaps. Too late. The second pilot dives, less controlled, less measured. A Ki-43 follows immediately. The American pilot pulls too hard. The P-40 shudders, loses speed. The Ki-43 closes the gap instantly. Gunfire, a burst of impacts along the wing. Taking hits. Taking hits. Pull out, Hale shouts. The damaged P-40 struggles upward, trailing smoke, but still airborne. Mercer hears it all, sees none of it. Because he is already repositioning again, scanning for the next target. Another Ki-43 drops toward him, more cautious this time. The enemy pilot has seen something. The pattern is no longer invisible. Mercer dives again, but the Japanese fighter does not follow as aggressively. It hangs back, adjusting, learning. Mercer levels out low. Waits. Nothing. The Ki-43 remains higher, circling. The first adaptation. Mercer exhales slowly. So you're not going to make it easy, he murmurs. Above, Hale's formation regains partial control. The fight shifts upward again, back into the altitude where doctrine says it should be fought. Blue flight, regroup. Regroup now, Hale orders. This time Mercer complies. He climbs again, the engine protesting the aircraft, returning to its familiar weakness. When he rejoins the others, the tone on the radio is different, less certain, more fragmented. What the hell is he doing down there? It worked. Twice. Or he just got lucky twice. Hale does not speak immediately. Then, finally, We stick to formation. We stick to altitude. That's how we survive. Mercer says nothing, but the silence is heavier now. Because it is no longer just his experience. Others have seen it. Others have tried it. And already it has produced both success and failure. The pattern is emerging, but it is incomplete. Misunderstood. Dangerous. 7:51 a.m. The Japanese fighters disengage again, pulling away with discipline. They have not been routed. They have not been defeated. But they have been surprised. Back at the airstrip, engines cut one by one. Pilots climb out slower, this time conversations quieter. Inside the debrief tent, the tension is immediate. Hale stands at the front, arms crossed. 2 enemy aircraft destroyed, he says. A pause, both by Lieutenant Mercer. Eyes turn again. No laughter this time, only calculation. Hale continues. 1 aircraft damaged, attempting similar maneuver. He looks directly at Mercer. You want to explain exactly what you're doing? Mercer steps forward. It's not about turning, he says. It's about forcing them to turn wrong. A few pilots frown. Briggs leans against the wall, listening now without interruption. They expect us to fight their fight, Mercer continues. Up high, tight turns. That's where they win. He gestures downward. But down low fast, they have to choose. Either follow and lose speed or stay high and lose position. Silence. Hale studies him. And if they adapt, Mercer does not answer immediately. Then quietly. Then we adapt again. The room remains still. Because for the first time, this is not just a story of survival. It is the beginning of a shift. But no one is ready to call it that. Not yet. May 15th, 1942, 6:52 a.m., Kunming forward sector. The airstrip no longer feels like a place of routine. You can sense it in the way engines are started earlier, in the way conversations stop when certain pilots walk past. The laughter from 2 days ago has thinned into something tighter, more cautious. And yet, the official orders have not changed. Captain Robert Hale stands in front of the assembled pilot's map pinned against a crate, sunlight cutting through the tent behind him. Enemy presence continues to increase northeast, he says. We are not here to experiment. We are here to hold the line. His eyes move across the group, then settle for just a moment on Lieutenant Daniel Mercer. Standard patrol altitude. Maintain formation. Engage only under favorable conditions. A pause. No deviations. There is no argument. Not openly. But the silence carries resistance now. Because what happened in the last 2 engagements is no longer isolated. 2 confirmed kills. 1 damaged aircraft from a failed attempt to copy the maneuver. Multiple witnesses. Enough to be noticed, not enough to be accepted. 7:01 a.m. The engines roar to life again. Mercer sits in the same cockpit. Hands steady expression, unreadable. The aircraft vibrates beneath him, familiar now, almost predictable in its flaws. Behind him, Sergeant Briggs climbs onto the wing, leaning into the cockpit. You keep doing that stunt, Briggs says, voice lower than before. You're going to get yourself killed. Mercer glances at him. Maybe. Briggs studies his face. That thing isn't built for what you're doing, he adds. Mercer nods once. Neither are they. Briggs doesn't laugh this time. 7:09 a.m. Takeoff. The formation climbs into the pale morning sky, engines straining as altitude increases. The mountains below fade into shadow ridgelines, cutting sharp lines through the haze. Blue flight, maintain spacing, Hale orders. No one breaks unless I say so. Acknowledgements follow. Mercer is the last to respond. Blue 4 copy. 7:23 a.m. Contact. 12 o'clock high. More aircraft than before. At least 12 Ki-43 fighters descending in staggered formation, sunlight glinting off their wings. They're getting confident, one pilot mutters. They're getting numbers? Another replies. Hold formation, Hale says. Wait. The tension builds. Closer. Closer. Break. The sky erupts again. But this time, something is different. 2 P-40S drop immediately. Not Mercer. Not yet. Blue 2. What are you doing? Hale snaps. Trying Mercer's move, the pilot shouts. The second follows. Blue 3. Stay with the formation. Hale orders. Too late. Both aircraft dive, hard engines roaring as they drop toward the terrain. The Japanese fighters react instantly. 2 Ki-43s peel off, following each diving P-40. Mercer watches from above. He does not move. Not yet. Damn it, Hale mutters. They're breaking formation. The first diving P-40 pulls too early, too sharp. The aircraft shudders, losing speed. The Ki-43 behind him closes the distance effortlessly. Gunfire. A burst of impacts. The P-40 jerks violently, smoke trailing from the fuselage. I'm hit. Pull up! Pull up, Hale shouts. The damaged aircraft struggles, barely maintaining control as it climbs away, crippled but alive. The second pilot goes lower, faster, but without control. His descent is uneven corrections, too aggressive. The Ki-43 behind him does not overshoot. It adjusts, matches, waits, then fires. A clean burst. The P-40's wing erupts in flame. No time to recover. The aircraft rolls nose-dropping, disappearing into the trees below. Silence hits the radio for a fraction of a second. Then chaos. Blue 3 is down. Jesus Christ! Hale's voice cuts through, sharp and immediate. All pilots regain altitude. Regain altitude now. Mercer exhales slowly. There it is. The misjudgment, not in the maneuver itself, but in its imitation. He pushes the throttle forward. Blue 4 braking, he says. Negative, Hale snaps. You stay with the formation. Mercer does not respond. He dives. The P-40 drops hard, engine roaring as speed builds. The terrain rushes upward, familiar now, almost welcoming. Behind him, a Ki-43 commits. Mercer feels it before he sees it. The pursuit, the expectation. But this time, the Japanese pilot hesitates slightly. Adjusting, learning. Mercer continues the dive longer than before. Lower, faster. He does not pull up where he did previously. He waits. The Ki-43 follows, but with more caution. Mercer pulls back, initiating the same wide controlled arc. The P-40 holds, stable, heavy. The Ki-43 mirrors the movement, but not as tightly, not as aggressively. It has learned. It avoids the mistake. No overshoot. For a brief moment, they are locked in position, neither gaining, neither losing. Mercer adjusts again. A slight throttle change. A shallow climb, just enough to alter the angle. The Ki-43 reacts. Too late. The angle shifts. The line breaks. There, a small window. Mercer rolls and drops behind. The guns fire. The Ki-43 jerks, smoke trailing from the engine. It tries to climb, but the damage is immediate. The aircraft stalls, then falls away. 3, Mercer says quietly. Above, the fight continues. But the pattern is no longer simple. The Japanese pilots are adapting. The American pilots are improvising. And the gap between understanding and assumption is widening. 7:38 a.m. Blue flight regroup. Hale orders again. This time fewer voices respond. One missing, one damaged. Mercer climbs back up, engine struggling once more as altitude increases. When he rejoins the formation, the silence on the radio is heavy. No one speaks for several seconds. Then one pilot says quietly, "It works. But not the way we're doing it." Another replies, "Or we're doing it wrong." Hale finally speaks. "No more unauthorized dives," he says. "We lost a pilot trying to copy something he didn't understand." His voice is controlled, but there is something underneath. Frustration, uncertainty. Lieutenant Mercer Hale continues, "You will remain with the formation. That is an order." A pause. Mercer looks out across the sky where distant specks of Japanese fighters are already withdrawing. "Yes, sir," he replies, but the words feel hollow, because the reality has already shifted. The maneuver is no longer his alone. It has been seen, attempted, failed, adapted against, and now misunderstood by everyone involved. 7:55 a.m. Back on the ground, the mood is different. No laughter, no jokes about flying coffins. Only the quiet, methodical sounds of engines cooling and tools being set down. Inside the debrief tent, Hale stands rigid. "We lost Lieutenant Carter," he says. No one responds. "We have 3 confirmed enemy aircraft destroyed." Again, silence. Hale looks at Mercer. "You got another one?" Not a question, a statement. "Yes, sir." Hale nods slowly. "And 2 of our pilots tried to replicate your maneuver." Mercer does not answer. "One is damaged." Hale continues. "One is dead." The words hang in the air. Briggs shifts his weight against the wall, arms crossed. "So what exactly are we looking at here?" one pilot asks. A tactic or a gamble? Hale turns to Mercer. Answer him. Mercer takes a breath. It's neither, he says. The room waits. It's a way to force them into a mistake, he continues. But only if you understand when to do it. How fast? How low? How far? And if you don't, someone asks. Mercer meets his eyes. Then you die. No one speaks after that. Because the truth is now clear. The P-40 is not useless, but it is not forgiving. It does not reward subtle imitation. It punishes it. And now the squadron stands at a dangerous edge. Between doctrine and adaptation. Between control and chaos. Between understanding and assumption. And no one is fully in control anymore. May 18th, 1942. 6:40 a.m. Kunming Forward Operations Tent. The map has changed. You can see it in the marks. The grease pencil lines drawn and erased, redrawn again, with sharper angles and shorter arrows. Enemy patrol routes overlap now thicker, more aggressive. There are no longer gaps between sightings. Captain Robert Hale stands over the table, one hand pressed flat against it, the other holding a folded report that he has already read twice. 3 patrols in the last 24 hours, he says. They're not probing anymore. They're committing. Around him, the pilots listen in silence. They've adjusted their altitude. Hale continues. Lower than before. Not as low as the valleys, but not staying high either. A few glances shift toward Mercer. No one says it out loud, but everyone understands what that means. The Japanese pilots have noticed. They are changing. Hale sets the report down. We are not changing with them, he says firmly. We maintain altitude advantage. We maintain formation discipline. That is how we survive this. Briggs, standing near the entrance, exhales through his nose, but says nothing. Mercer watches the map. The new enemy pattern is clear. They are no longer blindly diving. They are waiting, setting traps of their own. 7:03 a.m. Engines ignite once more. The airstrip vibrates under the combined force of propellers cutting through thick morning air. The smell of fuel hangs heavy, mixed with dust and heat already rising from the ground. Mercer straps in, adjusting his harness with practiced precision. The cockpit feels smaller now, tighter, as if the aircraft itself is aware of what is coming. Briggs climbs up beside him again. You hear the briefing, Briggs says quietly. They're adapting. Mercer nods. That means your trick isn't a trick anymore. Mercer looks straight ahead. It never was. Briggs studies him for a moment, then climbs down without another word. 7:09 a.m. Takeoff. The P-40 lifts, reluctantly wheels, leaving the ground with a familiar heaviness. The engine stutters once, then steadies. Blue Flight maintain altitude at 13,000. Hale orders. We go higher this time. The formation climbs, higher than before. The air grows thinner. The engine's strain becomes more noticeable, the P-40 losing some of its already limited responsiveness. Feels like we're climbing through syrup, one pilot mutters. Stay focused, Hale replies. 7:21 a.m. Contact, multiple bandits, 1 o'clock. The shapes appear again, but different. Spread wider, not diving immediately. They're holding another, pilot says. They're watching us. Someone else adds. Hale narrows his eyes. Maintain formation. Do not engage until they commit. The distance closes. The tension builds. The Japanese fighters hold their altitude slightly above, but not by much. Not enough to dominate. Not enough to be forced down. A balance. A deliberate one. They're baiting us, Mercer says quietly over the radio. No one answers. Because they are. 7:30 a.m. The first move comes from below. Another group of Ka-43 fighters rises from beneath the formation, climbing fast, cutting off escape routes downward. They've got us bracketed, a pilot shouts. Hale reacts instantly. Climb. Full power. Climb. The P-40s respond, engines roaring as they try to gain altitude. But this is where they are weakest. The climb is slow, heavy. The Ka-43s above begin to descend. The trap closes. Gunfire erupts. The formation breaks under pressure, pilots forced into individual evasive maneuvers. Stay fast. Don't turn with them, Hale shouts, but the sky is already dissolving into chaos. Mercer holds his position for a moment longer, watching the pattern. The Japanese fighters are no longer chasing blindly. They are controlling space. forcing the P-40S into positions where their weaknesses are exposed. He pushes the throttle forward. Blue 4, braking, he says. Negative. Hale snaps immediately. You stay up here. Mercer looks down. The lower group of Key 43s is climbing, but not yet at speed. A narrow window. A risky one. He dives. The P-40 drops hard, engine roaring as speed builds rapidly. Damn it! Mercer Hale's voice cuts through the radio. But Mercer is already committed. The air thickens as he descends. The aircraft stabilizes again, becoming what it is not at altitude. Responsive, predictable, alive. A Key 43 breaks off from below and turns to meet him head-on, not chasing, intercepting. The Japanese pilot has learned. Mercer adjusts immediately. He does not fly straight. He angles, forcing the intercept to stretch. The Ki-43 follows, but its climb costs it speed. Mercer levels out low. Waits. The Ki-43 commits to the attack. Diving now. Mercer pulls into a shallow arc, maintaining speed. The Ki-43 tries to match. It cannot sustain both angle and velocity. For a brief moment, the line breaks. Mercer rolls behind. Fires. The rounds strike clean. The Ki-43's engine erupts in smoke, the aircraft dropping sharply, spiraling toward the ground. 4, Mercer says, breath steady. But above the situation is worse. Blue 2 is hit. I can't climb. I can't climb. The higher group of Ki-43s presses the advantage, diving through the formation, forcing the P-40 into defensive spirals they cannot win. Break off. Break off, Hale orders. But there is nowhere clean to break. Mercer looks up. The trap is complete. Altitude is no longer safety. Formation is no longer protection. Everything they relied on is failing. He climbs, forcing the P-40 upward again. Engine protesting speed bleeding away. A Ki-43 drops behind him almost immediately. Mercer feels the difference. Here at altitude, the aircraft is vulnerable again. The old weakness returns. The old assumptions. The Japanese pilot closes, faster than before. Mercer pushes the nose down slightly, trying to regain speed. The Ki-43 adjusts, staying just out of overshoot range. It has learned not to commit too early. The margin is thinner now. Mercer banks wider than instinct suggests. The P-40 holds. The Ki-43 follows. Not too tight, not too aggressive. Careful. Mercer waits. Too long. The Ki-43 fires. Rounds snap past the canopy, one striking the fuselage behind him. The aircraft shudders. Warning! Mercer reacts instantly, dropping into a steeper dive. The engine roars again. Speed returns. The Ki-43 follows for a moment, then breaks off, not chasing, not making the same mistake. Mercer exhales slowly. They're done playing, he mutters. 7:42 a.m. Blue flight. Disengage now. Hale orders. This time no one argues. The surviving P-40s dive and scatter, using speed to escape rather than position to fight. The Japanese fighters do not pursue far. They have made their point. 7:56 a.m. Back on the ground, the silence is heavier than any loss. 3 aircraft damaged, 1 missing. Fuel lines ruptured. Control surfaces shredded. And for the first time, no one mentions kills. Inside the tent, Hale stands motionless. They anticipated us, he says finally. No one responds. They adapted to the low-altitude maneuver, he continues. They forced us into a fight we could not control. His eyes move to Mercer. You saw it. Mercer nods. Yes, sir. And a pause. Mercer chooses his words carefully. They're learning faster than we are. The room tightens, because no one wants to admit that, not out loud. Not yet. Hale looks back at the map. For a long moment, he says nothing. Then, quietly, we continue operations as planned. No one argues, but no one believes it either, because something fundamental has shifted. The P-40 is no longer underestimated. The maneuver is no longer unexpected, and the enemy is no longer reacting. They are anticipating, and that changes everything. May the 20th, 1942. 6:18 a.m. Kunming forward airstrip. The engines start before the sun clears the ridgeline. You can hear them in the half-light, uneven at first, then rising into a steady mechanical rhythm that feels forced, like something being pushed forward despite resistance. No one jokes anymore. Mechanics move quickly between aircraft, checking fuel lines, tightening panels, wiping oil from surfaces that never stay clean. Pilots stand near their machines, quieter than before, running through checklists without speaking. Lieutenant Daniel Mercer sits in his cockpit canopy, open, staring straight ahead. The same aircraft, the same floors, but everything around it has changed. Sergeant Harold Briggs climbs up beside him, slower this time, less urgency in his movements. "You see the reports?" Briggs asks. Mercer nods once. "They're setting layered patrols now." Briggs continues. "High, mid, and low, like they're building a net." Mercer does not look at him. "They figured out the gap," Briggs adds. A pause. "They always do." Mercer exhales slowly. "Not completely," he says. Briggs studies him. "You still think you can beat it?" Mercer finally turns his head slightly. "I think they're expecting the same move," he replies. Briggs frowns. "And you're not going to give it to them?" Mercer does not answer, because he does not fully know yet. 6:49 a.m. Captain Robert Hale stands at the front of the formation briefing, but his posture is different now, less rigid, more strained. "We've got confirmed enemy patrols operating in coordinated layers," he says. "They're not chasing anymore, they're guiding us." He points at the map. "High group pins us. Mid-group forces engagement. Low group cuts off escape." A pilot mutters under his breath. "So where do we go?" Hale hears it. "We stay together," he says firmly. "We control our movement. No one breaks formation unless ordered." His eyes sweep across the group. No individual maneuvers. The words hang heavy, because everyone knows who that is meant for. Mercer does not react. 7:02 a.m. The P-40S lift into the air. Again, engines straining wheels, leaving the ground with a sense of reluctance that feels almost human. Blue flight climb to 12,000 Hale orders. We do not overextend. The formation rises. The sky feels tighter now, less open, as if something is already waiting. 7:16 a.m. Contact. Multiple contacts. Not a direction this time. Every direction. You look up. You look down. Shapes at different altitudes. Moving deliberately. "They're already in position," one pilot says. Hale's voice tightens. "Hold formation. Do not engage first." The distance closes. The Japanese fighters do not dive. They circle, adjusting, watching. Mercer feels it. The pressure, not from a single threat, but from all sides. 7:22 a.m. The first attack comes from above. 2. Ki-43 fighters dive, forcing the P-40 formation to react. Break Hale orders. The formation shifts but stays mostly intact. Then the mid-level group engages, fast passes, short bursts of gunfire, forcing movement, forcing separation. "They're pushing us down." Someone shouts, and they are, not aggressively, not obviously, but effectively. Mercer feels the altitude dropping, feels the formation stretching. The pattern is working. The trap is closing. Maintain altitude. Hale orders, but the order comes too late. The third layer is already moving. Below, waiting. Mercer sees them. Ki-43 fighters rising from beneath, cutting off the familiar escape route. The low dive is no longer open. "They've got the bottom covered," a pilot shouts. Confusion spreads instantly. "Where do we go?" "Stay with me," Hale calls, but the formation is already fragmenting. Mercer holds position for a moment, watching the structure collapse. This is no longer a fight. It is a controlled breakdown. The enemy is not chasing. They are directing. He makes a decision. "Blue 4 breaking," he says. "Negative." Hale snaps. No one breaks. Mercer does not dive. He climbs. The P-40 resists immediately. The engine strains. The aircraft slows. This is its worst position, but it is not what they expect. A Ki-43 peels off from the upper layer, intercepting. The Japanese pilot anticipates the climb. Mercer adjusts. He angles slightly, not a direct climb, but a diagonal ascent that trades some speed for position. The Ki-43 follows. Closing. The margin is thin. Mercer feels the aircraft struggling, feels the engine pushing beyond comfort. He holds it, just long enough. Then he drops, not straight down. A curved descent, a reversal. The Ki-43 commits to the intercept path. Too far forward, too committed. The angle breaks. For a split second, the Japanese fighter is exposed. Mercer rolls behind, fires. The rounds strike across the wing and cockpit. The Ki-43 jerks, then falls away, trailing smoke. 5. Mercer says under his breath, but the sky around him is worse than before. Blue 2 is down. I've got one on me. I can't shake him. Where is everyone? The radio fractures into overlapping voices. Haile tries to regain control. All pilots regroup north. Regroup north. But the structure is gone. Each aircraft is now alone. Mercer scans. 2 Ki-43 fighters are closing on another P-40, the pilots struggling to maintain speed. Mercer dives toward them. The engine responds instantly. This is where the aircraft lives. Fast, low, unrestricted. He angles toward the trailing Ki-43. Fires, misses. The Japanese pilot reacts, quickly breaking off. The second Ki-43 pulls up, avoiding the engagement entirely. They are no longer committing to risky positions. They disengage early. Preserve advantage. Mercer pulls up slightly, searching for another opening. There is none. Only fragments of fights, each one disconnected, each one unstable. 7:35 a.m. Disengage, disengage, hail orders. The command is desperate now. Not controlled, not strategic. Survival. The P-40S break away, diving in different directions using speed to escape the layered trap. The Japanese fighters pursue briefly, then pull back. They do not need to chase. They have already disrupted everything. 7:48 a.m. The return to base is silent. Engines hum. No one speaks. No one reports. Because no one has a clear picture of what just happened. 7:59 a.m. Back on the ground, the damage is visible immediately. 2 aircraft missing. One crash landed short of the strip. Another barely holding together as it taxis in panels torn, fuel leaking. Briggs moves quickly between them, shouting orders, directing mechanics. Inside the debrief tent, the confusion lingers. Hale stands at the front, but for the first time he does not begin immediately. He looks at the map, then at the pilots. They controlled the engagement, he says finally. No one disagrees. They dictated altitude, direction, timing. A pause, and we reacted. The word sits heavy. Mercer steps forward slightly. They're not chasing anymore, he says. They're herding. Hale nods slowly. Yes, another pilot speaks up. So what do we do? No answer comes immediately, because there is no clear one. Briggs leans against the wall, arms crossed. You keep doing the same thing, he says. Quietly, they'll keep beating you the same way. Halle looks at him, then back at Mercer. You have something different, Hale says. Not a question, a statement. Mercer hesitates, because what he has is no longer enough. Not alone. They're expecting it now, Mercer says. Halle steps closer. Then what are they not expecting? Silence, because that answer has not been found yet, and time is running out. May 23rd, 1942. 5:58 a.m. Kunming, forward command post. The sky is still dark when the first engine turns over. Not a test, not a routine warm-up, an early launch. You can feel the urgency before anyone speaks. Messengers move between tents. Radios crackle with half-formed transmissions. The map table is already crowded, grease pencil lines drawn in layers over layers, until the original terrain is barely visible beneath the markings. Captain Robert Hale stands at the center jaw, tight eyes fixed on a fresh report being handed to him. Convoy spotted moving through the valley east of the ridge, the radio operator says. Japanese air cover confirmed. Multiple layers. Hale nods once. Then they're expecting us, he replies. A pause. Or daring us, Briggs mutters from the edge of the tent. Hale looks up. They're moving supplies through that valley, Hale says. If we let that pass, they reinforce everything north of here. No one argues. Because this is no longer just patrol. This is consequence. Halle turns to the pilots. We intercept at first light, he says. We hit the convoy and break their cover. He points to the map. High group engages top layer. Second group holds mid. No one drops unless ordered. His eyes settle on Mercer. No exceptions. Mercer nods. Yes, sir. But the words feel like something already outdated. 6:12 a.m. The P-40S lift into a sky that is just beginning to lighten. The horizon glows faintly, the mountains cutting black shapes against it. Below the valley is still shadowed, hidden waiting. Blue flight, maintain climb. Hale orders. We stay above them until we commit. The formation rises. Higher, slower. The engines strain. Mercer feels it immediately. This altitude again. This weakness again. 6:19 a.m. Visual on the convoy, a pilot reports. You look down. The valley opens beneath them, a narrow corridor winding between steep ridges. Trucks move along the dirt road, small and distant. Anti-aircraft positions dot the edges, barely visible. And above them, the fighters, layers, exactly as expected. They're already set, one pilot says. Of course, they are, another replies. Hale's voice remains steady. We go as planned. High group engages on my mark. The distance closes. The Japanese fighters shift slightly, adjusting position. Not surprised, not rushed. Waiting. 6:24 a.m. Engage. The top layer dives. The P-40S push forward, engines roaring as they attempt to convert altitude into speed. The first passes collide in a burst of motion. Gunfire. Evasive turns. But something breaks immediately. The Japanese fighters do not fully commit. They split. Some engage. Others hold, maintaining structure. They're not collapsing, a pilot shouts. They're keeping the layers. Hale reacts. Second group move in. Support the top. The mid-level P-40S push forward. The formation stretches. The structure begins to thin. Below, the convoy continues moving, untouched. Mercer watches. This is not a fight. This is control. The enemy is dictating the pace again. He looks down. The valley. The road. The trucks. Unprotected for a moment. A narrow moment. He makes the decision. Blue 4, braking, he says. Negative. Hale snaps instantly. You hold position. Mercer dives anyway. The P-40 drops hard, the engine roaring as speed builds rapidly. The valley rises to meet him. Behind him, two Ki-43 fighters break off from the mid-layer. Following, not chasing blindly. Positioning. Mercer angles towards the convoy. Anti-aircraft fire begins immediately. Black bursts in the air. Tracers rising. He stays fast, low. The P-40 stabilizes, cutting through the valley with a force it never shows at altitude. The trucks grow larger. Closer. He lines up. Fires. The machine guns tear into the lead vehicle, explosions rippling through the column. Fuel ignites. Smoke rises. Chaos below, but above. The trap tightens again. The two Ki-43 fighters descend, cutting off his exit. Mercer pulls up slightly, adjusting his path. They mirror him. Not too close. Not too aggressive. They have learned. He banks. They adjust. He dives again. They follow. But not into a mistake. They are waiting for him to make one. The margin is gone. Mercer pushes the aircraft harder. Faster. The engine roars, vibrating at the edge of the tolerance. He angles toward the side of the valley, forcing a tighter space. The Ki-43 fighters hesitate for a fraction of a second. Terrain. Risk. That is the gap. Mercer pulls through the narrow turn, the P-40 holding its line with heavy momentum. One Ki-43 follows. Too tight. Too late. The aircraft clips the airflow, wrong stalls for just a moment. Enough. Mercer rolls behind. Fires. The rounds strike. Clean. The fighter erupts into smoke, dropping into the valley below. The second Ki-43 pulls up immediately. Disengages. No risk. Mercer exhales sharply. 6, he says. But the sky above is collapsing. Blue 2 is down. They're everywhere. I can't get clear. The layered structure has held. The P-40 formation has not. Hale's voice cuts through, strained. All units disengage. Disengage. Now, but it is already too late. The high group is scattered. The mid group is isolated. The valley is now a killing zone. Mercer pulls up, climbing hard, trying to escape the trap. The engine struggles. The aircraft slows. A Ki-43 drops behind him instantly. Closing. Mercer pushes the nose down again. Too late. The Japanese fighter fires. Rounds slam into the fuselage. The cockpit shakes violently. Warning. Damage. Mercer reacts, diving again, forcing speed back into the aircraft. The Ki-43 follows briefly, then breaks off. It does not need to finish the kill. The damage is already done. 6:38 a.m. The remaining P-40S scatter in every direction, abandoning formation entirely. The convoy below burns in places, but not enough. Not stopped. The mission has failed. 6:49 a.m. The return is fragmented. Aircraft arrive one by one, some smoking, some barely controllable. One crashes on landing, another never arrives. On the ground, Briggs watches each aircraft come in, counting silently. 1, 2, 3, then a gap, then another. He stops counting, because he already knows. Inside the command tent, Hale stands alone for a moment before the others enter. The map is still there. But it no longer matters. When the pilots gather, no one speaks. Hale looks at them, then at the empty spaces. "We lost 4, he says. The words land without reaction, because the numbers are already understood. The convoy was not stopped. Silence. Hale turns to Mercer. "You broke formation, not accusation. Not yet. A statement." "Yes, sir." "You destroyed part of the convoy." "Yes, sir." A pause. "And it changed nothing." Mercer does not answer. "Because that is the truth." Hale exhales slowly. "The plan is gone," he says quietly. No one argues, no one defends it, because it is already clear. The structure they relied on, the altitude advantage, the formation discipline, all of it has collapsed under an enemy that adapted faster, and a response that fractured under pressure. Outside, the engines tick as they cool. Inside, the silence grows heavier, because, for the first time, there is no plan left to follow. Only reaction, only survival. And the realization that everything they believed would hold has already fallen apart. May 25th, 1942. 6:07. I am Kunming forward airstrip. The engines do not start all at once today. They start one at a time. Slow, uneven, as if each aircraft must be convinced individually to leave the ground. You can hear the gaps between them. The hesitation. The absence of urgency that once drove everything forward. 4 pilots are gone. 2 aircraft sit at the edge of the strip, stripped for parts, their wings bare. Their purpose ended without ceremony. No one speaks about them, not out loud. Lieutenant Daniel Mercer climbs into his cockpit again. The same P-40, the same worn controls, the same engine that still does not respond cleanly to the throttle. But now the aircraft feels different, not because it has changed, because everything else has. Sergeant Harold Briggs stands beside the wing looking up at him. "You're still taking that one," Briggs says. Mercer nods. Briggs exhales slowly. "Funny thing," he says. "A week ago we were trying to ground you for flying it." Mercer adjusts his gloves. "Now it's the only one I trust." Briggs studies him for a moment. "Or the only one you understand," he replies. Mercer does not answer, because that is closer to the truth. 6:15 a.m. Captain Robert Hale does not give a long briefing. There is no map spread out. No complex plan, only a single objective. "Enemy patrol expected northeast," he says. "We intercept if we can. If not, we return." A pause. No formation enforcement, no altitude restriction. The words feel wrong, out of place, because they are. One pilot frowns. "So what are we doing?" Hale looks at him. "We're not pretending we control this anymore," he says. Silence. Hale's eyes shift briefly toward Mercer. "Fly your aircraft," he adds, "not the plan." 6:23 a.m. The P-40 lifts into the sky again, not as a unit, not as a formation, as separate machines sharing the same air. Blue flight. "Maintain contact," Hale says, but even the call sign feels like something from a different time. The aircraft spread out naturally, each pilot holding distance, not structure. The sky feels wider, but also more dangerous. 6:34 a.m. Contact. Multiple bandits. The shapes appear again. Ki-43 fighters, but fewer this time. 6, maybe 7. Not layered, not structured the same way. They circle at mid-altitude, watching, testing. They're not committing yet. One pilot says. No, Hale replies quietly. Neither are we. The distance holds. For a moment, neither side moves. Then one Ki-43 breaks, diving toward a lone P-40. The pilot reacts instantly, pulling into a tight turn. Too tight. The aircraft slows. The Ki-43 closes. Gunfire. The P-40 jerks, barely avoiding a direct hit. Mercer watches. Same mistake. Still happening. He pushes the throttle forward. Blue 4 engaging, he says. No one orders him back. No one stops him. He dives. The P-40 drops hard, the engine roaring as speed builds. The Ki-43 pilot sees him, adjusts, breaks off from the original target, turns toward Mercer. Good. Mercer angles his descent. Not straight, not predictable. The Ki-43 follows, but carefully. Mercer pulls into a wide arc. The P-40 holds. The Ki-43 mirrors. Not too tight, not too slow. Mercer waits, adjusts his throttle. A small change. Just enough. The Ka-43 drifts forward. Not a full overshoot, but close. Close enough. Mercer rolls behind. Fires. The rounds strike along the fuselage. The Ki-43 jerks, smoke trailing from the engine. It tries to climb, fails, drops away. 7, Mercer says. No reaction on the radio. No celebration, only acknowledgement. Copy, Hale says. The fight continues around them, but it is different now. No one is trying to force a pattern. No one is trying to recreate what they do not understand. Each pilot moves based on what they see. Some dive, some climb, some disengage early. And slowly something shifts. Not control, but balance. 6:42 a.m., a Ki-43 dives toward Mercer from above. He does not climb. He does not dive immediately. He holds, waits for the angle. The Japanese pilot commits. Then Mercer drops. Late. The timing is different. The Ki-43 follows, but the delay changes everything. The line is wrong. The angle collapses. Mercer rolls, fires, misses. The Ki-43 breaks away instantly. No risk. No second chance. They're not staying in the fight. One pilot says. They don't need to, another replies. Because they don't. The Japanese fighters are no longer trying to dominate. They are preserving, maintaining pressure without committing to losses. Mercer pulls up slightly, scanning. There are no easy targets. No clear openings. Just moments. Small, brief, unreliable. 6:51 a.m. Fuel check, Hale says. The responses come in. Lower than expected. Longer engagement. More maneuvering. Less efficiency. Disengage. Hale orders. No hesitation. The P-40S pull away. The Ki-43 fighters do not pursue. They let them go. Because they have already shaped the fight. Already limited the outcome. 7:04 a.m. Back on the ground, the aircraft land one by one. No losses. No major damage. But no victory. Inside the tent, the debrief is short. One confirmed, Hale says, looking at Mercer. A nod. No losses. Another nod. Then silence. Because there is nothing else to say. No plan to review. No tactic to refine. Only experience. Only fragments. Hale looks at Mercer. You understand that aircraft, he says. Mercer does not respond. Hale continues. And you've made it do things no one expected. A pause. But it doesn't change the war. The words are quiet. Final. Mercer looks at the map. At the lines that no longer mean anything. At the positions that shift too quickly to hold. No, sir, he says. Outside, the P-40 sits on the strip engine, cooling metal, ticking softly in the heat. The same aircraft, the same flaws, the same strengths. It was never useless, only misunderstood. And now, it is too late for that to matter.